Too hot for TV.
Welcome back to Doctor Who Too Hot for TV. We are the podcast that looks at all things Doctor Who Extended Universe. Today, I've already been over on Joe Ford's book club talking about mental health issues, asylums, that you can't say that word anymore, but you can in the 1800s, it's fine, probably. And he's only come over here to talk about some other Doctor Who stories set in mental health facilities. So, hi, Joe.
Oh, hello there. I mean, you can't really say Joe Ford's book club. Michael Mills has done so many of those bloody book clubs now. You could happily say Joe and Michael's book club.
Well, if only we had Michael here, but unfortunately we don't. It's just
a shame. Although, have you heard, he's earning from it now on Cameo.
So I've heard.
Book club personality, Michael Mills.
No, of course, Michael Mills is here.
Hello, you fool. You think you're Joe Ford. Don't you see you're not Joe Ford? I'm Joe Ford.
God, I feel for you.
Joe, you actually came up with all the things we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, everybody.
Tell everybody what you've picked, you crazy bastard.
Well, I chose The Sleep of Reason on my book club, of course, and we've done that. And then I chose the Sylvester McCoy epic Unregenerate by David A. McIntee and Minuet in Hell, that much-regarded Paul McGann adventure.
Excellent. Well, listen to them we have, and an experience it will be, I'm
They
sure.
were. Yeah.
Too hot for TV.
Let's kick off with Minuet in Hell, which comes from Big Finish Productions. It was written by Alan W. Lear and Gary Russell, directed by Nicholas Briggs, produced by Gary Russell and Jason Haig-Ellery, and it was recorded on the 23rd of April 2001. News at the time. Telos Books has got a license to do Doctor Who novellas, which ran for a couple of years, and Who in Sci-Fi UK. SF UK, a new Channel 4 documentary series charting the development of British science fiction, which commenced in March, has a Doctor Who themed episode which aired at 12:50 a.m. on Sunday the 15th of April.
That's how it was, kids.
50 a.m.
I think I've got this on, it might even be on my YouTube channel. If it's not, it's on my hard drive somewhere. And it's actually really fucking weird. It's like it's a sort of lads mag version of science fiction. And it's like, they go, Doctor Who was so trippy, wasn't it? But Alan fucking Moore's interviewed it. Like, he's the main talking head guest. I think it's him and Colin Baker, and that's about it.
What, together? Man, what a team up.
Not together, no. It was whoever's house they could get in that day. Other releases at the time. From BBC Books, we had Vanishing Point with the 8th Doctor Fitz and Angie, and The Shadow in the Glass with the 6th Doctor and the Brigadier. From BBC Audio, we had The Moonbase, The Savages and the Celestial Toymaker, and there was a Bernie Summerfield book called The Squire's Crystal, and the comic strip was Ophidius with the 8th Doctor and Izzy. Anybody remember any of those? Anybody want to rave about them or condemn them?
Can I rave about one of them? The Squire's Crystal was a banger. It's Jacqueline Rayner wrote that. It's the inevitable Bernice Summerfield swaps bodies with a man. And, I mean, you'd think Jacqueline Rayner was a man, the way she described Benny trying to prevent herself from having erections throughout the entire book. I mean, it's just hilarious, that book.
I can prevent myself from having an erection by being 42 years old.
Yeah. And listening to these audios as well, yeah. Shadow in the Glass is a banger as well. That was written in 2 weeks by Justin Richards and Stephen Cole and is a beautifully plotted past Doctor adventure. They did it at Christmas. They went away together. Their wives didn't mind, I hear, and banged out a book in 2 weeks.
Two men went away together and banged it out, did they, Chad?
Yeah, they did. It's our story, Dylan.
You've saved that for Derby, my friend.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Michael Mills, anything to add to that?
Vanishing Point is a rare Eighth Doctor adventure book set on an Earth colony world where all is not as it seems. But Ophidius is the one that introduces Destry. It's the one where they swap bodies, and then Izzy's body gets seemingly destroyed, and it's the start of the whole Izzy the Fish arc, and possibly one of the greatest runs of Doctor Who spin-off media ever. We're going to do it on the book club one day, that whole bunch. Oh, Ophidius. Oh, that was the start of something special.
Fellas, we could have been talking about any of these fabulous things instead of the audios.
You picked it. This is all
No,
your
I
fault,
didn't.
Joe.
I'm so sorry. And there was one other thing. Oh, there's a fabulous book club episode out there, talking all about the startup of Telos novellas and the first book, Time and Relative by Kim Newman, which is a banger.
I've got the full set of those, and I've never read them. But that's what I do with Doctor Who books. I buy them, put them on a shelf, and stare at them. Never ever read them.
He doesn't read, folks. He doesn't read.
I do read. It's life isn't all about Doctor Who. Have you heard of Blake 7?
No, I like Red 4, thank you.
Fair. You're a wise man.
Inside number 9, that sort of thing.
You bastard. Look, Inside number 9's fine, but just get over it. One season of it's enough.
Have you guys heard of Sapphire and Steel?
I have heard of Sapphire and Steel.
I'm taking a piss, of course.
I've heard of them all. Quatermass, I believe, a couple of people like that. Yeah.
Have you heard of a nymphoid barbarian in Dinosaur Hell?
No, I haven't. That sounds fantastic.
I'll Dropbox them over to you, all right?
Right, excellent.
Too hot for TV.
An amnesiac 8th Doctor is imprisoned in a corrupt asylum in a southern US state, where the sinister Dr. Harjita uses mind transfer experiments that leave the Doctor vulnerable and allow Gideon Crane to steal fragments of his memories, convincing himself that he is the Doctor. Meanwhile, Charlie investigates the Hellfire Club, whose political and occult leaders plan to summon alien entities posing as demons, while the retired Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart is drawn in by UNIT to stop the growing threat. As the Governor's inauguration becomes the focus of the cult's ritual, the Doctor slowly reasserts his identity, exposing Crane's fraud and the aliens' deception, destroying the mind transfer technology and thwarting the invasion. With the Hellfire Club disbanded and the political corruption revealed, the Brigadier ensures UNIT manages the fallout while the Doctor and Charlie move on, his memories only still partially restored.
Too hot for TV.
When did we first hear this particular audio?
I think it's worth saying, before we get stuck in with Minuet in Hell, when you began this podcast all those years ago, Dylan, you somewhat arrogantly titled it Doctor Who Too Hot for TV, and since then have discussed many things, including many that actually were on TV.
Yeah.
But I think this might be the closest you've yet come to something that was genuinely deemed too hot for TV. This is the final entry in Paul McGann's first series, but when they broadcast it on BBC 7, they didn't. Oh no, it was too controversial.
Does Charlie get sex trafficked?
Charlie gets sex trafficked, yes. And there's all sorts of demonology. This is too hot for TV or radio. DAB digital radio.
Michael, it wasn't the content, though. Let's be honest. They just listened to the audio and said, we're not putting that out on Radio 4, all right?
All I know is that Toby Haydock has never recorded an introduction to the seventh dimension with this one. Thank you very much.
Oh, maybe we should get a special recording from Toby Haydock at the front.
He'll do it. He'll do anything for us.
Just for the completists out there. Anyway, so when did you first hear it, Michael? Did you get it when it first came out?
I got it about, I think, a year after it came out. One of the first Doctor Who audios I got, I think the first ones I listened to were like Cold It's and Blood Tide, but then I found out there was Paul McGann ones. So I jumped on that, and it was Sword of Orion, Stones of Venice, and this. For some reason, I didn't get Storm Warning until ages later. And, you listen to those three back to back, and that's a rush. The tonal consistency is the sort of thing that myths of Doctor Who are built on. We'll go from Blade Runner, Alien, sci-fi, and then Jefferson, through to Paul McGann, magical realism in Venice, and then whatever the hell this is. I think I quite liked it at the time because I was 13, 14, and it was a bit dark and a bit edgy and a bit sexy, and it had demons and a bit of horror, and it was set in America, which was where all the interesting stuff happened. I think I got it at the start of the school summer holidays, and I listened to it along with the others, near enough on rotation to the extent that I've got a very clear memory of the last day of the summer holidays while going back to school, listening to Minuet in Hell again and thinking, is it really only been 6 weeks since I first listened to Minuet in Hell? It's become so much a part of my cultural understanding and personality.
Wow. Well, I mean, it explains a lot. What about you, Joe Ford?
Yeah, I mean, just like the book club we've just done, Michael and I are coming at this from completely different angles because I couldn't finish the fucking thing when I first heard it. I mean, when I heard Helen Rayner's dreadfully cod American accent as Becky Lee Kowalski, my warning bells went off. And then that bumming red comic devil from South Park turned up. And I don't know what he was doing in. And I was just like, I just got to the end of episode 1. I think, is that where Briggs comes in as the other Doctor? Or was it the end of 2? I got to that cliffhanger and I just refused to listen to anymore. And I forced myself to go back and listen to it when I did it for Doco Reviews. Because I was like, nope, I'm going to put a review out. And I gave it the princely score of 0 out of 10.
It's not a 0 out of 10. It's
I'm
low,
not sure I'd
but-
change. I'm not sure I'd change the mark.
I was buying the McGann stories monthly, and I would have got this pretty much as soon as it came out. And it was, it was the big finale.
Big as in running time.
Well, yeah. And I'd really enjoyed those first 3 McGann audios. And I was very excited for the Brig and the 8th Doctor to meet. Surely this is going to be a classic. And I remember, even at 17 years old, I thought this was dreadful. I was just like, what have they done? And I mean, my biggest disappointment as a kid was just the fact that the Brig and the Doctor were separated for so long. Now, that bit bothers me less. But I just remember thinking, at the time, the only 2 big finishes I didn't like were this one and Sirens of Time. When Sirens of Time came out, I was just like, this is not my multi-Doctor story. It was just like, I'd been in love with BBV and their Professor and Ace Rangers, and I was like, now it's Doctor Who. And I was like, oh, shit. But then, by the time they got to the rest of the monthly adventures, I was loving them. So this is one of the few early big finishes that, even at the time, I was not very fond of.
I'd forgotten, that you two are just in love enough with boobs, bums, and big guns to adore Sword of Orion. Suddenly, everything's making sense about the pair of you. Critically, that is.
Sword of Orion is Doctor Who written by and for heterosexuals.
It's so tedious. I mean, I would rather listen to this than Sword of Orion, which is just people walking up and down dark corridors on audio.
No, it's oozing with atmosphere.
No, it's got a pneumatic drill going for it. That's all you hear. Anyway, sorry. We're not talking about that.
It's got an amazing door sound effect.
That's one up on Minuet then.
So this was adapted from an audio-visual, which was a series of fan audios made by Gary Russell, Bill Baggs, and the like, and with the Doctor played by none other than Nick Briggs, who in this plays the not quite Doctor. Why do you think they chose to adapt this particular AV for the range?
I listened to it this afternoon, and it's a good story. It's a genuinely good story. When you take out all the bump that's in Minuet of Hell, take out all the politics, take out all the pretty little satin bottoms, take out just all the Brigadier, all of that extraneous stuff, and just tell the story of the Doctor and Gideon Crane, and in a brilliant time period back in the past, great time period to explore the sort of mental health angle. It was a good script. It was a basic production because it was a fan audio, and you reliably tell me non-profit. So they were doing it on threepence, but it was a good story. So I can see when they're sort of casting the net, I'm not sure we should be using recycled stories in our first 4 Paul McGann stories.
I mean, they did it quite a lot. Sword of Orion was another one.
Yeah,
so
similarly agonising.
Was it a case, I think, that they got the go-ahead for McGann quite quickly, this is vaguely coming back to me. And they were like, he's got a window in, say, 6 weeks' time or something. So it kind of makes sense to go to some of your established stuff. And of course, Stones of Venice, was that at least outlined for Tom Baker?
Yeah.
No, I think it was written. The script was, he was
Yeah.
handed that script to read and he sort of laughed him out of the convention.
Yeah. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense that you write your first one and then the others you go, right, what have we got that people responded well to? Let's recycle them. And Cuddlesome was another one which shows up a bit later.
Let's just say if the idea was to save time by rewriting an old audiovisual scripts, then things perhaps did not go to plan.
Well, quite. I mean, Michael, I don't know if you've got anything to add to what Joe was saying, but also like the audio-visual version. What did you think of it?
Yeah, no, I'd agree with Joe. I thought it was very good listening back to it, especially for a fan production. Absolutely see why you'd go for that one. I think it's, as Joe says, very interesting choice of time period. So it's set in the 17th century, and it's sort of the historical Hellfire Club and the Bethlehem Mental Hospital has those as its two major locations. Very intelligently written as well, I think, for the time, for the audience, but also for the production. It's all like little club rooms, or it's cramped ale houses, or it's these really small cells, which sort of helps with the sort of claustrophobia of it all, but also the fact that it's, being recorded around someone's dining table. So it all has to sound quite small.
Like 6 characters, isn't there? There's not many characters in it. It's so focused compared to Minuet in Hell.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it, and I think it is obviously a fan production, but for a fan production of the time, it's remarkably competently done.
You can see why those AVs had such a reputation amongst fans in the late 80s who perhaps weren't enjoying the show at the time, because while they are amateurish in production values, story-wise, quite a lot of them. I've listened to 3 or 4 of them now, and the stories are all really well put together. And
they're ambitious, aren't they? I think they've got big ideas in them. I took a quick look on Wiki at some of the other stories. I was like, oh, yeah, tasty. Get rid of Eric Sayward and let's have this bunch in charge for a bit.
For whatever reason, they decide to adapt this version, and it's got a reputation, I think, amongst fandom as a real dud. Do we think it's deserving of this reputation?
Yeah, as I said, I listened to it a heck of a lot circa 2002, and going back to it 20 years later, 14-year-old boys are not good judges of quality, I would say. In its defense, what I will say is I was never bored by it. It has a surfeit of ideas, almost too many ideas, and it's ridiculously excited by every single one of them, but they don't really cohere. I think some of the things that are known to be poor about it are undeniably poor. It's set in America with a lot of Brits doing bad American accents in a way that I just don't think you're allowed to do anymore. I just don't think you'd get away with having, look, this will be as good as some of the accents in it. Oh, hi, my name's Michael and I'm an American, and gee whiz, doctor, what are you doing here in America, honestly? And is this a city or is this a town? Why are there only 6 people in this whole state?
You didn't tell me that you was inviting Becky Lee Kowalski on this call.
The thing is, this is why you have dialogue coaches and things like that now, to make sure people get the nuances of those things right. I mean,
what happened with Miranda Raisin then in Darling Staying Man?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it goes right, sometimes it goes wrong. Ian Levine has just done an adaptation of The Last of the Time Lords, the movie. Which he's obviously taken some creative liberties and turned it into a 4-part Doctor Who story. And I've seen the first part, and it is disgusting. That's the only. It's an offensive piece of Doctor Who, because just in its quality. But as the lead, he's got an AI Donald Sutherland's face, and he's got John Leeson to do an American accent and play the role. And what? I mean, there's so many shocking things about that, but unsurprisingly, John Leeson isn't very good at doing an American accent, and definitely didn't have a dialogue coach.
Did you see Power of Crow? He weren't good at doing an English accent.
If it's not a robot dog, he can't do it. I'll send you the link afterwards, but
please.
you would look for American actors in England, or go, what's been the big? Is there a performance of some big American stage show where they've had dialogue coaches already and things like that, and they've got the accents? But just the balls of this to kind of just assume people can do them, like they are comically bad in places, those accents.
But why did they ditch setting this in the past and set it in the present overseas? I don't understand, because it adds nothing to the story.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I did, because on the one hand, we land in America in the present or the near future, and I'm a bit like, good, because I hate it when Doctor Who always lands in London or Cardiff.
I mean, someone opens their mouth and you go, oh,
Yeah,
bad.
I go, that's why they don't. they never land there. Yeah, like the original setting is London of the past, and it makes so much more sense for the plot and the whole asylum side of things. So yeah, I've got no idea why they chose to update it. I guess sort of when you look at like the run of those first 4 McGann stories, is it just about, well, we've got 2 set in the past, 1 in the future, so let's do something slightly contemporary maybe?
But like, if it's trying to be edgy and political, it's so staid. All that stuff with Dashwood for the White House, let the people. I mean, what is that all about? How is that relevant to the story?
Yeah, because the politics isn't either scathing enough to really sort of make any sort of comment. Especially now, I'm sure there's something really good you could do with the
yes.
American sort of political system and the state of its politics.
Go and watch Arachnids in the UK. You see how it's done, all right? Or possibly the Silurian candidate. There's a Trump avatar in that as well.
I mean, yeah, this is just, it doesn't have anything to say on politics. It's just, ooh, aren't Americans a bit funny, especially the southern ones?
Because one of the things that's quite good about the original audiovisual version, and it's got a subtle idea, but is the sort of villainy of the British Empire, because it's set at a time when Britain is really becoming a world power. And in a way that feels, if you're doing it now, you'd think, oh, yes, how very modern an idea. But it's from like 1986. And there's this clear idea that the British Empire extending its reach across the world is not going to be a good thing. And that is all a result of the sort of evil that is ongoing in the story. And I think here maybe the idea from the writers is that they're going to try and update that to make it about America. But it's one of many ideas throughout Minuet in Hell where it sort of throws up ideas. But then it's just the idea. It's just the similar stuff there around its use of demons, right? Which is quite a fun idea. I like that. I like sort of horror, techno, thriller, demon, sci-fi collision of elements. I like Event Horizon. I like Hellraiser. That's all good. But then having flagged that up, the demons are just demons. The whole performance of it is so like route 1 of how to play a demon. And there's nothing more than that.
It is South Park bigger and uncut. He's playing it in that demon, Senator Pickering, who's going, Charlie, my darling, my darling. He's literally playing it like that. He's a comedy demon from hell. It's so the only thing that wasn't there from that bloody movie was Saddam Hussein, who was bumming. For God's sake. I mean, tonally, what is this story doing? What is it doing? You've got the Doctor in the cell exploring identity issues. You've got Charlie being sex trafficked over here. That weird comedy thing. American politics over there. A COD Buffy the Vampire Slayer parody over there. I mean, what the hell? These things, they just don't all belong together.
I think it's great that they do a memory loss arc for the 8th Doctor, because that doesn't usually happen to him.
Very original, very refreshing.
Although, is this the first one apart from the TV movie? Has he lost his mind elsewhere at that point?
Oh, where are we in the books? Oh, we're in Vanishing Point, aren't we?
Yeah, he'd lost it by this point in the books.
So what do we think about so we've got Briggs who's taken on some of the Doctor's knowledge and personality. We've got this memory loss arc and this whole set in this asylum. How do we think that works? Does it work?
No, it doesn't. Well, because I think, do you know what? My wider issue is that this wants to be the 8th Doctor meets the Brigadier story as well. And I think they're trying to tick that box. So when I listened to this, I kept thinking, well, why are they keeping them apart? Yeah. Why are we doing this when the Brigadier's all the way over there on that part of the story?
It is bizarre.
And so, it's totally missing that trick. So I don't really know why they did there. I was more impressed with Nicholas Briggs as the Doctor in the fan audio than I was as Gideon Crane in this version of the story. And bloody hell, did you notice how they literally ripped whole sections of dialogue from that original script? I was like, yep, I know that line. I know that line as well. I don't know. Briggs had an air of, and he's supposed to because it's written that way, of arrogance that was just a bit irritating in those scenes. And McGann, he wasn't really playing against him. He was just doing that sort of wistful, lost, oh God, all the memories of Gallifrey. I don't know. It wasn't two actors coming together and attacking that scene.
Yeah.
It just didn't work for me.
The thing I feel about Briggs's character, Gideon, is that there's nothing for him there to get his teeth into, because he's either thinking he's the Doctor, but not quite the Doctor, or he's mad and lost. And then when he is a real person, when he suddenly gets his memories back and he's normal, he's like that for 5 minutes. But there's no real hint of that character beforehand. And it's just like, what is there to play here? It's like, it's just a series of chunks of small bits of the Doctor, but not even written well.
Do you remember Jackson Lake in The Next Doctor?
Yeah.
That's how you do this. And when he gets his memory back, he remembers his family have been killed, or he thinks they have, and it's devastating.
I think The Next Doctor is an interesting comparison to this. I think I think the whole Gideon Crane man who gets the Doctor's memories and believes he is the Doctor when the Doctor doesn't, can't remember if he is or not. I actually think that's the most interesting idea in the story, and it's probably the most worthwhile thread in it to pursue, at least in the Big Finish version. I agree with you, the performances don't match to the extent that these days you'd almost think that they'd recorded separately and it had been edited together, but I don't think they really did that back then. I like the bits where Gideon has got the upper hand. Gideon's done the Doctor bit of getting himself out of the cell and is kind of playing off against everyone, but you know he's not the Doctor, and you actually were like, oh, shit, where's this going to end up? That this slightly unhinged guy who has all the confidence and knowledge of the Doctor but isn't him. It's getting towards something that I feel like I'm going to enjoy, but then it just doesn't quite get there. One thing I think it actually does better than the Next Doctor, though, is that once Gideon is no longer the Doctor, he still has a role within the story, and we have a resolution that relies on there being someone else with the Doctor's insight and ability, whereas the Next Doctor is the biggest sin in RTD1 of Russell T Davies being too much in love with the Doctor, which is that Jackson gets his memory back and he gets to be sad and then gets to do fuck all in the rest of the story, even rescue his own son, because, oh, well, he's not the Doctor anymore, so therefore he's quite boring, but the Doctor's great, so he gets to be the hero. Russell T Davies doesn't take notes. Who would have believed it? Because that would have been the most obvious script note that anyone could ever have given anyone.
But like, my advice would be go and listen to the AV audio, because in that you've got two actors where you can tell they're in like a confined space and they're really playing out this sort of psychological identity crisis in a series of properly intense scenes. You know, it's like they forgot all the lessons they'd learned in the original one somehow. And, you know, knowing some of the behind the scenes chaos of Minuet in Hell. Famously, Gary Russell was quoted as saying, you know, the worst experience of putting together a Big Finish he ever had. I think a lot of things just fell through stalls because of that chaos.
And so the chaos is essentially they decide they're going to adapt it, and then the scripts show up and it's something completely different.
Out of order. And so they're getting scenes from the beginning, the middle, the end, and Gary Russell's going, hang on, how are you writing this? I don't understand. Because he's using that original template. He knows that original story, but Gary's sort of going, no, I need this in order. So he's trying to assemble a jigsaw puzzle of a narrative, which might explain why this ends up being a bit over here and a bit over there, and a bit paceless as a result. And then when it all comes in, he goes, I just wasn't happy with the direction he'd taken it. So Gary then rewrites. So there's a whole new voice coming in from the end of episode 2 to the end of the story. 90% of the tail end of this script. And then him and Alan Lear's professional relationship falls apart then, because he is pissed that his original story has been tampered with so much. So it was just chaos.
I think as well, if there is this tight deadline that I'm sort of remembering, like, I think that must have played a hand in it, because at any other point you just go, this isn't working, we need a different script from somebody else, and not like, you know, the two writers pulling it in different directions and the whole thing not working. I'm quite interested in Alan W. Lear, because he doesn't write any other Doctor Who, but he did write a fair amount of the AV. So I'd love to know what his other ones are like. He did one called Cloud of Fear. He did one called The Enclave Irrelative. Interesting. And another one
Terrible title.
called Planet of Lies. So, I'd be very interested to see.
Planet of Lies. Is that a colony?
It might very well be. It's also interesting that out of the AV writers, most of them go on to write for Big Finish or books and things like that and have countless credits, but his only professional credit is Minuet in Hell, and it's not that professional at the end of the day, so
It's probably a compliment and an insult to say on the back of listening to... Is the original one called Minuet in
it is
Hell?
indeed.
So on the back of listening to that, I would love to seek out, because if the scripts are as tight as that, I would love to hear his other stuff. But on the back of Big Finish's Minuet in Hell, I would never be checking out his Big Finish work again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was slightly terrified because I'd listened to this, what feels like a 25-hour audio play. And I was just like, I hope I don't have to relive that again, just with slightly shitter production values. So it's quite pleasant when you go over to the audio and it's an hour long and just really tight and dripping in atmosphere. So Sleep of Reason, which we've just covered on your podcast, addresses mental health, and whether you think that's successful or not, is down to you, but it's trying something. It seems mad to me that you would set something in a mental health institute and not really do anything towards mental health. But there's nothing in there here, right? Like there's not even like a semblance of a mental health thing. It's just like, we're here to cure the crazies, and actually we're summoning demons.
There's no through line of a comment on mental health, is there? It basically is, we're in an institute, and the psychological angle is a big wacky sci-fi idea.
Yeah. And you have the Dr. Paul McGann suffering from a sort of form of, I guess, ego crisis throughout a lot of the story, where he can't remember who he is or doesn't believe the stories of who he is. But it's a sort of cliched depiction of madness, of quote unquote madness, of quote unquote insanity. Someone who has lost all sense of self. And the other people in the institute, the other patients, they don't get any time at all other than Gideon, who then just sort of snaps back to being fine at the end when it's all undone. They don't get any time. I think the only references you get to them is they're like Hannibal Lecters. They've all got sort of serial killer names, and they're all monsters to the extent which is, it's not interesting at all. To the extent that actually at the end of it, the Doctor gets a line right at the very end when, evil has been overthrown and the authorities have arrived to sort everything out. He gets a line about, do look after these people because they're victims, really. And you think it actually feels kind of inappropriate because it's been so conspicuously uninterested in that angle throughout that it's almost like at the end it's gone, oh no, but we do care. No, don't worry, we do understand that mental illness is a thing. You think, no, I'm sorry, if you cared that much, you wouldn't have written this story in this way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's also an interesting story, even if it's not dealing with mental health, of what does a story look like where the Doctor and some middle-class tough journalist who thinks he's the Doctor are locked in an asylum or an institute with a bunch of serial killers. That should be an environment right for at least a scary story. But it's just like, well, we can't afford to have these people. We're not going to get other members of the cast to play them. So they're just sort of muffling in the background, and that's about it.
And in a story that's already stuffed to bursting with ideas, there was a tasty idea, I thought, that kicked in, but it's so casual and it's dropped so quickly, of the Doctor person being split between all these people just for about 2 minutes. And I was like, there's a story there. That's really interesting. No, it's dropped within a couple of minutes and we don't go there again.
There are so many ideas in here, but none of them are really executed successfully. It boggles the mind, but I think you said this, Michael, and I can't remember whether it was earlier before we started recording. I wasn't bored. It's 2.5 hours of Doctor Who that's far, far too long and an absolute mess. But Paul McGann and India Fisher are always a pleasure to listen to. It's always nice when the Brigadier shows up. So on a very base level, I can get something out of it. What about you, Michael? Do you pull anything out of it that you enjoy?
like I say, I think there is something to the Dr. Gideon thing, at least as a nebulous idea. I like it as part of the mix insofar as them wanting to do 4 very different stories early on. I think that's good. I wish it had the strength of its convictions for the demons to just be demons. And I've complained about this before, that Doctor Who always has to give a pseudo rationalization for what's going on. So right at the death, we get, oh, they're not demons and they're not going to hell. They're the psionivores. And you're going to the psionivore dimension. You think that's what things just always way more boring.
Yeah.
I did like, and I'd forgotten, how it does finally begin to set up the plot for the second series, which is quite nicely done. Like, there isn't much of a through line in this first series, presumably because of the speed to write it. But here, the cliffhangers are actually quite good.
Yeah.
The cliffhanger at the end of part 2 is Gideon Crane announcing that he is the Doctor, and the cliffhanger at the end of part 3 is Charlie literally being thrown into hell. But then the devils throw her back because they don't want her because she's already dead. And at the very last scene is her going, what was that all about? And that's just a lovely, nice bit of teeing up. And the Doctor going, oh, it's all fine. And Paul McGann has this wonderful delivery of, yeah, I did worry about that at the time. And that thing that I thought was fine, maybe it's not fine, and that's going to start catching up with me. And then that leads all the way through to Neverland.
Well,
so I think that's lovely.
There's some stuff with the, what's it called? The Vortis Hall.
Oh, talk about ignoble companion exits. Forget about, next to Dodo, we can add Ramsay the Vortisaur, bless him.
Yeah, because he starts losing his shit again, doesn't he? Because she's wrong, and that's sort of what...
What's the point of that bloody dinosaur? What was the point of him?
I mean, fair, but I think, he's up there with Chameleon as one of the greats.
Oh, okay.
Joe Ford, have you got any positives?
No, not at all. It's everything I don't like about Big Finish audios, or Doctor Who in general. I don't really like politics in Doctor Who. I think it's never really done very well. I don't like the female characters being exploited in an unpleasantly sexual way. I don't like stupid comedy villains that are so over the top. We've left camp behind somewhere and gone into the stratosphere. I don't know the tone this is going for. I don't know if it's trying to be scary or funny or silly.
It kind of needed to almost be a comedy, didn't it?
But you know how the best of Big Finish, like Rob Shearman, he can toe that line between sort of sick, dark comedy and horror, and it makes you feel really icky. Well, this made me feel really icky in places, but in no way that was pleasant,
Right.
So no, and it's so long. This was the point where Briggs was getting really angry because he's doing a lot of post-production work on Big Finish at this point, and he's going, Gary, we said these would be an hour and a half. Why is this thing 2 hours and 10 minutes? You need to chop these scripts down.
This is longer than that, though, isn't it? It's about 240, something like that.
He started saying, I'm doing 3 extra episodes work for the same money, and this just isn't on. And it gets worse as you go towards 100. They just get longer and longer, these stories.
Yeah.
I think the most egregious thing here is that we're not doing anything with mental health. But most importantly, it doesn't say anything at all about the Doctor. And it's throwing in the air that this is an identity crisis, and we learn nothing. We come to no conclusions about the Doctor whatsoever. And it's the end of his first series. It's the perfect time to do it.
Or you make it about the lack of the Doctor and the Doctor not being there, like a sort of turn left or something, and you can do something really interesting. But it's like, it's not a great showcase for the character of the 8th Doctor, as you say, at the end of his first series. It's not a great meeting with the Brigadier for the end of his first series. The Doctor's just a bit out of it for most of it. And okay, sure, it's a nice moment when he finally gets his memory back. But in the way that Sleep of Reason sidelined the Doctor a little bit, this almost does something worse. It sidelines him to the point of, the story just happens around him. But ultimately, the moment in episode 4, he's going to solve everything because that's what he does. But you're just waiting for that moment, and it just feels like it's treading water and going off in all these different directions that don't really have any function. And then,
do you know what I would have done? Because they were really trying to impress with this opening season. Obviously they were. They've got Paul McGann. They knew the sales were going to go up. They knew people were going to be intrigued. Yeah. I would have changed the order, and I would have had Minuet in Hell third and the Stones of Venice last.
That makes sense.
Because I've realised I'm turning the entire season into a shit sandwich because I think the first and the last then would be the best. But like Stones of Venice is so beautifully executed, and the dialogue is so crisp, and it ends on a beautiful sequence of the Doctor and Charlie punting down the canal, going off onto other adventures, and it's wonderfully sensual and romantic. Whereas at the end of this, I was like, do I want to come back for series 2? Like, that's how I felt listening to this.
I made the joke earlier that Charlie's essentially sex trafficked. What do we think of her involvement in the story, and does that do anything for us?
It's really not okay, is it? Actually, like,
No.
no. To be serious, it really isn't okay. So the Doctor and Charlie get the TARDIS crashes, and they sort of both get thrown out onto the streets of this American city, and Charlie is sort of found as homeless, and is scooped up in this van and taken off to basically be forcibly prostituted to people, and that's horrible.
What they
But a
called
bit like-
pretty
a bit
little
like the-
Saturn bottoms.
Pretty Little Saturn Bottoms,
Oof.
but a bit like, which I think is a line from the AV version, but there it's sort of in period, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Not saying that it's entirely okay, but it's less of a sort of non sequitur. But a bit like the mental health stuff, it has no idea or care for the actual reality of what it's depicting
Yeah.
and the appropriateness of it, and so it literally has Charlie and other girls giggling over the
Yeah.
over the outfits they're going to be made to wear.
I think they think it's sexy that they're forced to wear those sexual costumes and parade about for the men. That's the sense I
Charlie's
got from
whipped
this.
at one point, right? And
Yeah.
then the pseudo Buffy lady saves her, and we never talk of that plot again.
But she's there, right? She is there to be a prostitute, right? What are they doing?
I don't think it's even prostitution. Like, I think she's been held against her will to have sex with these men.
Doesn't she have a collar on or something? Or like spiky sort of bondage gear or something?
Yeah, which they make a sort of comic moment out of. I think it's meant to be like Emma Peel's outfit from the Avengers episode Touch of Brimstone, but they think it's sort of cheeky and fun, which maybe if you had a comic reason for her to be wearing that, but they don't have a comic reason. They have a really horrible reason for her to be wearing it.
Yeah, she's
And they don't link it all, so there's no purpose to it. The Doctor's talking about hell as an identity crisis and the Hellfire Club that we go and visit and that is part of this sort of political system. And the devil comes from hell, but none of it's brought together in a thematic way. So it's just random things that sound edgy but are a bit icky.
somebody that isn't sex trafficked is the Brigadier. Is it nice to have the Brig here?
No, he's just doing phone calls, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's sitting there doing monologues to himself. Like, why is he there?
He's doing emails. Like, do you remember Ladies of Letters that used to be on Radio 4?
No, Michael, I'm watching the X-Files at the moment. It's Gillian Anderson going, and there's long scenes of her at the keyboard while voiceover plays. It's just like that.
There is so much of Minuet in Hell that is British geeks who've watched American television,
Yeah.
Buffy,
isn't there?
X-Files.
Buffy,
yeah.
X-Files. Yeah.
And I think Nick Courtney was probably just in the pub down the road, and they called him in for an afternoon and said, we'll buy you a few more beers afterwards, Nick. You got to meet Paul McGann. You go, oh, very good. I'll meet Paul McGann. And
When do they meet? Episode 4?
Yeah.
At the end?
it should be a big moment, and it's also him investigating, and they sort of do that a bit with the Brigadier in Big Finish now. But I feel like that character could have been anybody, and it didn't need to be the Brigadier, because we're still in that time where, well, the Brigadier meets all the doctors, It was a big thing for everybody, and it is such a damp squib of an adventure for those two to meet in, and just he's sorely underused. Like, there's nothing particularly Brigadierish about it. It feels like Nick Courtney investigates, not the Brigadier investigates.
But especially when you compare it to the Spectre of Lanyon Moor, which has the Sixth Doctor and the Brigadier meet in the first episode, and they spend the entire thing investigating the mystery and then finding the solution together. That's sort of what you want if you're bringing them together.
Yeah, or if you compare it to, in the books, because we're here from the book club people, The Dying Days, which also does the Eighth Doctor meets the Brigadier and has them together for all of it and says something about their relationship and has something about how the Brigadier's relationship with the Eighth Doctor, which is that the Brigadier is now getting old.
Yeah.
He's an old man now, and here's the Doctor again in the most youthful body he's seen yet. And Even the bit where they team him up with Gideon Crane, where he mistakes Gideon for the Doctor because the Doctor turns up and goes, "Brigadier, it's me." And you think, oh, well, that could be interesting. And oh, no, we're not really going anywhere with that either.
Yeah, it's not even Mordrin Undead at that point. It's just...
It's like Dr. Dots, but all of the numbers are written out in different languages, and no one knows how to bring it together.
No, none of it works. Do we have too much more we want to say on this one?
Well, I would like to say that I have had sat on my shelf for 6 years a dictionary of devils and demons. And
you've never mentioned that, Michael.
And there were some demonic sounding names in Minuet in Hell. So I thought, I'll go and get this down off the shelf and look them up. I'll look up Malabolgia. I'll look up Marcosius. Not in here. Neither of them in there. No, you wasted money this week. Marcosius was
Martin Day, then, is it?
well, I think it is. Tondria and Villeneuve, who wrote this book, presumably in the original French, because Marcosius is a general of hell from demonology, and Malabolge is one of the circles of hell from Dante's Inferno, but they're not in this book. So this has also made me realise, this is another reason to dislike Minuet in Hell, it's made me realise that my very exciting book that I've had on the shelf all these years, fucking rubbish.
Michael, can I ask you, are you a slayer or a watcher? And that's why you've got that book?
Is that a gay thing?
This isn't that sort of podcast, Joe.
No, that's from Buffy. I mean, that's the sort of tomes that they have in Giles's library. I want to know why you're reading that bizarre book.
I'm sorry, I don't get your nerdy references.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, all right. Well, you go and read From Hell again, all right? Proper literature.
What do we think about the use of the demons and hell and things like that? Like, because it feels to me like this could be any old generic alien. Like, there's an exploration to be done of sort of hell and demonology and devil worship that could be done in the story, but just none of it's done, is it?
Well, no, that's called the Satan Pit, I believe.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing. I said I wish they would just let demons be demons and look at that, because the revelation that they're aliens is not a surprise. That's just Doctor Who sort of collapsing into its generic sensibilities. And they're called the fucking psionovores. Again, do they feed off fear again? Or is it we feed off all of your worst impulses or something like that?
I feed off my own worst impulses. It's fine.
I mean, I like to imagine that all this Hellfire Club stuff is actually quite disturbing and dark, but it's also glibly played and written in this.
Yeah.
That I was just like, it was just sort of a joke. And are we making jokes about this? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I feel a bit uncomfortable listening to this, but not in a way that I like to feel uncomfortable sometimes.
It's a horrible story that doesn't realise it's horrible.
Yeah,
it just wants to. Yeah, it thinks it's funny.
It thinks it's funny. It thinks it's sexy. It thinks it's political. It thinks it's dealing with some big issues, but it's dealing with nothing. It's undeveloped idea after undeveloped idea thrown in because that's what nerds think are cool.
To Gary's credit, because I've read the inside story cover to cover, he said, "Yeah, we all failed here. It didn't work." So like even Big Finish, who will rarely admit when they put out a dog, well, why would they? They want to sell it. Even he said, "Yeah, this just was not good."
Yeah. Should we rate this? Is this a clanger? Is it a banger? Is it an average meander?
It's a clanger, yes, and it's more of a clanger for coming after Stones of Venice, which is just one of my favourites.
It's a thundering clanger.
Yeah, it's a clanger from me too, unsurprisingly. I mean, what a crock of old shit. Sometimes we do things and I'm genuinely surprised, or I can find an angle. Dalek Generation isn't very good, but I wanted to find an angle just to piss off Joe.
Mission to Magnus.
Mission to Mag.
We both enjoyed that.
Necromantia, I found things to enjoy about it, and
not many.
I've got time for Necromantia. I will listen to Necromantia again. I'll never listen to this again. It's not even so bad it's good, or it's not even so dealing with such off-kilter issues that you think Doctor Who shouldn't be dealing with, that you kind of want to sit there and cringe yourself through them. It's just shit.
I mean, I'll give them the credit, though. You know, when they bring in new doctors to Big Finish, they usually start with the dog, don't they? And things get progressively better. This time we started with a pretty good story and ended the first year with a dismal failure.
Indeed.
Too hot for TV.
Unregenerate! ! Came out from Big Finish. It was written by David A. McIntee. It was directed by John Ainsworth, produced by Gary Russell and Jason Haig-Ellery, released in June 2005, and recorded on the 16th and 17th of November 2004. News at the time: Billy Piper and Noel Clarke have signed up for Series 2 of the relaunched Doctor Who. The press was busy wondering whether Doctor Who was too scary for kids. Brighton Pier had a new Doctor Who exhibition, and there will be a Christmas special of Doctor Who called The Christmas Invasion. So we are bigger than the Beatles again. Other releases at the time, we had Gallifrey, Pandora and Insurgency, Unit, The Wasting, and the Bernice book, The Tree of Life. We also had Faction Paradox, Warring States, The Night is Long, and Dreams Are Legion. About Time 5 was out from Mad Norwegian Press. From BBC Books, we had The Gallifrey Chronicles, featuring the 8th Doctor, Fits and Tricks. On DVD, we had Doctor Who Volume 2, and from BBC Audio, we had The Power of the Daleks MP3 CD. And the comic strip was Art Attack, featuring the 9th Doctor and Rose. And on television, we had Boomtown, Bad Wolf, The Parting of the Ways, and The Ultimate Guide, which is obviously the pinnacle of Doctor Who broadcasting.
There's a lot.
There's a lot going on.
I mean, you need a big budget.
We're back, baby. The wilderness years. We couldn't believe it. Do you remember? Do you remember what it was like? Not only was Doctor Who back, but everyone liked it, and it was going to go on forever.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
heady
in
days.
Tesco's, we had Doctor Who Frubes. I mean, we was everywhere.
Little did we know our Lord and Saviour would also be our undoing.
It's always cyclical, these things, you know.
Absolutely.
What goes up must come down.
Exactly, and boy did it come down. In some people's opinions, like the corporation Disney, but you know.
Who could you be talking about?
I don't know. So Big Finish are churning out quite a lot at that point as well. But
The Wasting. I've just listened to it. That's directed by Nicola Bryan, only one of 3 stories from Big Finish that she directed. Superbly, may I say.
Really?
It was brilliant. And featuring David Tennant as super bitch, arsehole, unit soldier, Colonel Brimacombe Wood, gone evil, and having a massive fight with Siri O'Neill, aka Yazoo. Check out the Finish Big episode on it, because it was so fun. But no, it was a good story. Really, really good. David Tennant was everywhere at this point.
yeah.
Too hot for TV.
The Doctor and Mel uncover a secret celestial intervention agency project in which dying humans are implanted with young TARDIS minds to create covert agents. Guided by a holographic message from the Doctor, Mel teams up with a London cabbie, a psychic gestalt named Chakra, and a Time Lord operative named Lewis to infiltrate the facility, where they discover the Doctor's mind has been destabilised by contact with a TARDIS consciousness. With the sacrifice of one of the human hosts and scientist Kleist, the project is dismantled, the inmates are freed, and the asylum is repurposed as a place of rehabilitation rather than control.
Too hot for TV.
So, Doctor Who's back, bigger than ever, brilliant. Big Finish are still releasing their monthly range, and it's dropped down a tier. This was our most important bit of Doctor Who every month. It was actual Doctor Who with actual Doctor Who actors, and that's what kept us going since the late 90s. And all of a sudden, I'm watching Parting of the Ways, and there's a giant army of Daleks, and the Doctor's regenerating, and millions of people are watching. And I don't know about you guys, but I stopped buying Big Finish at this point. And so the first time I heard this would have been around 2011, something like that, where I was doing a big listen through of all the Big Finishes. And I remembered nothing about it at all until I came to revisit it today.
You were Doctor Who fandom at the time, because Big Finish was on a precipice. at this point, and they nearly folded because so many people did what you did. We don't need the audios anymore because Doctor Who's on TV. That's real Doctor Who. This is now spin-off Doctor Who rather than the real McCoy. And if it wasn't for when they completely restructured the company and how they brought out the release and brought in the trilogies and all of that, I think it genuinely would have folded. But they found a model that meant they could ride that bumpy wave financially.
Absolutely. And what happened is Doctor Who's amazing, and then it goes off air, and I'm like, oh, I would like some more Doctor Who. And so I jumped back into Big Finish, but I didn't have much money. So it's not like I was going, I've missed 4 months of it, I'm going to buy those 4 months. I just picked up whatever the latest release was. And so
you actually have to skip forward, to Night of the Doctor, to when they truly were back. So it was Stephen Moffat doing something with Paul McGann, and then suddenly they did Dark Eyes on the back of that, and the money started rolling in again.
Absolutely. No, Jason Haig Ellery said before that they nearly closed during the Matt Smith era as well. But Night of the Doctor got the Americans interested in a way that they never had been before, and downloads happened so they could access these things. But Unregenerate comes out at the end of Doctor Who's triumphant series finale. 2 more different Doctor Who stories there couldn't be. Did we all hear it at the time, Michael? When did you first come to this?
Yeah, I think I heard it at the time, certainly sometime over that summer. I wasn't old enough, didn't have the money to ever have been getting every Big Finish that came out. But, it's something I'd spend me little bit of money on if there was something on the shelf in Forbidden Planet. And this was on the shelf in Forbidden Planet, along with Live 34. And I remember Live 34 being quite interesting and different, and thinking, oh, actually, that's all right then. Like, if they are going to carry on, it's nice that they're doing something a bit interesting, a bit different. Like, I'm all right with that. Sort of Winter Olympics Doctor Who. But this, I couldn't remember much about it other than just that impression of being, not only is Big Finish less important now, but it feels a little bit like they're losing steam with what they need to be doing for each story to grab you.
Mm-hmm.
I did, and we all knew we were going to get here on this call. The only thing I remembered about Unregenerate was Sylvester McCoy's abysmal performance in it. All of that shouting, and I just remember listening to this. The story may have been amazing. It wasn't. But that performance was so lousy. I just remember thinking, God, they need to do something to shake up these 7. We'd had the Rapture recently, and stuff like that. And all he was doing was bawling. And so I just came away from it thinking, I don't know if I want to listen to 7th Doctor audios anymore because they're not right into his strengths.
So this is the earliest Doctor Who spin-off in the 7th Doctor's timeline. This is directly after Time and the Rani and before Paradise Towers. Does it in any way feel like it could fit in that gap?
No, because even in Time and the Rani, where that is an eccentric performance from Sylvester McCoy, who doesn't really know what he's doing, and he's got that script to work with, but there's enough charm and there's enough humour in his performance in Time and the Rani that by the end of it, you're like, this is the Doctor. Had this been where he started, I just think everyone would have jumped ship. So no, I don't think this is a bridge between Time and the Rani and Paradise Towers, because in Paradise Towers he's kind of formed. Yeah. He's there. He's intelligent. He's assessing. He's still a bit of a clown, but that just makes everyone else underestimate him. He's a smart fella in Paradise Towers. This, well, you tell me what he's doing in this. You tell me what they're doing with his writing in this, because I honestly don't know.
Well, this is it. So, not remembering anything about this story, I went in thinking, I genuinely had no preconceptions. So I was ready to be amazed, ready to be shocked, ready to be appalled, whatever. And I went in, and the first episode, I was like, I'm really enjoying this. It's got a really good atmosphere to it. I don't know what's going on in the sense that there's a lot of mysteries that I think are interesting mysteries, like why are the Doctor and Mel apart? Why is the Doctor in this asylum? You've got this house at the end of the cliffhanger that isn't really a house. And I'm like, okay, we're going on an adventure here. I think I'm going to quite enjoy this. By the end of it, I've just lost any interest. Like, in a way that with Minuet in Hell, I could tell you exactly what was happening in the plot right up until the end of it, even if I thought it was shit. And I was engaged with it enough. By the end of this, and it's living TARDISes and Time Lords and all these things, again, some interesting ideas. I was just like, what is this? This is big boys sci-fi. Doctor Who's got to be really serious and a bit Star Trek-y, but we don't really understand what makes Star Trek good. You know, so it's got to be a bit Babylon 5, but we don't really understand why people like Babylon 5. It's just trying to make Doctor Who this serious sci-fi thing and atone for the perceived crimes of season 24. And it's just dog shit by the end of it.
Do you know, I would never write off David A. McIntee because this is the man who gave me the 11th Tiger and The Face of the Enemy and, a Frobisher book, for God's sakes, with Glitz and Dibber and stuff like that. But one of the feathers that repeatedly was put in his cap was that he wanted to write very serious Star Trek-y science fiction. And that just isn't Doctor
Write
Who.
a Star Trek book.
Yeah, well, he tried. He did, I think. I think he might have done.
He did. And do you know what? I was genuinely really happy for him when I saw that he'd written a Star Trek book.
Well, was it because we wouldn't get the Dark Path and things like that anymore? It's Lords of the Storm.
Yes, Lords of the Storm, which even has a Miranda-class starship in it.
I did Lords of the Storm for this a while back, and that isn't... It's interesting, because by the end of it, it's quite an interesting sort of Sontaran battle war thing. But in the lead up to it, you just get to the battle, and I don't really care about this alien planet and this alien culture and all the other stuff. So, Michael, what is the tone of this, actually? What's it trying to do?
Yeah, that's a good question, really, because I got vague memories that when this was first announced and the cover released, and that title, Unregenerate, with the Seventh Doctor in a straitjacket, and it's set between Time and the Rani and Paradise Towers, and there was a general sort of feeling on the message boards that, this one's going to be a bit unusual, this one's going to be a bit weird, what are they being a bit provocative with canon here? And then they weren't. And I think the tone, if I had to say it, it's very much something like Star Trek Voyager Season 4, Episode 15. Quote marks Unregenerate in the corner of the screen. Our intrepid adventurers find a Starfleet vessel that's been thrown across the galaxy because it turns out Starfleet did them wrong and's been trying to put alien intelligences into the minds of people. That's very...
Season 4, Episode 26, Hope and Fear, thank you.
And it is very sort of, as you've both said, very serious, very sort of sci-fi, but that sort of pseudo sci-fi of it isn't actually spinning out of any, as far as I'm aware, any actual science. It turns out to be disappointingly lore heavy in the end as well. The whole last episode where we sort of get explanations for what's going on, because some of the ideas are quite interesting. Early on, as you say, is this idea of different alien creatures who they're experimenting on in different ways. And again, in terms of mental health and illness, it is very much, again, madness. And here it is sort of directly equated between insanity and hell and stuff. But there's interesting ideas within that going on. But then the explanations are just so dull. And its execution of its ideas, we're going to put the minds of TARDISes into people. Whatever you think of the Doctor's wife, it gets more out of that idea than this does. Like, that should be an idea, and it realised that's your idea. That's the core concept for the episode.
It's got a beating heart, the Doctor's wife, right? There are genuinely emotional scenes in this. There's no emotions at all in episode 4 of Unregenerate.
No emotions, and it is very Star Trek Voyager, sort of Starfleet done us wrong, kind of, well, now we shall become a higher intelligence. Do you know what I mean? If I were to say, every setting in this has a very flat studio floor.
Yeah.
It's that sort of feeling. And then they just sort of throw in like, this is the work of the CIA. And they don't explain that that's the Celestial Intervention Agency. They just say, like, we assume no one is going to listen to this who doesn't immediately think Celestial Intervention Agency.
That reveal of the Time Lords being involved should be like, I'm someone that really likes Gallifrey.
Madman, we'll put you in an asylum.
But I can see just through this story why people don't like it. because the explanation that it's all Time Lords isn't handled with any sort of drama or anything like that.
No.
It's just
It's the cliffhanger, isn't it? Does she go, yes, Mel, because he is a Time Lord.
but then it is just a bunch of Time Lords. It's a decent enough cliffhanger, but like then it's just Time Lords and they're putting TARDISes in people's minds and all this stuff, and it's just like, God, I can see why people find Gallifrey tedious. In the same way that when I watch Arc of Infinity, I can see why people find it tedious.
So clinical, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all boring science facts and no personality and no humour. Like, Doctor Who relies on gags, okay?
Yeah.
He needs to have some personality. There's just none of that here at all.
It's the difference, but it's the difference between Gallifrey and Gallifrey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There needs to be some weight when the Time Lords are in, and then what they're doing
the difference between, Michael, it's like, the jaws of the nightmare child in the Time War and a pulse loop, the very thing, Thalia, that's it,
and I don't know about you guys, but when anyone mentions block transfer computations, I am turgid.
No, Jesus Christ.
And some of the
science and maths, boy oh boy.
Some of the dialogue that Bonnie Langford was given, I mean, Jesus Christ, I'd have forgiven her if she'd gone away and never wanted to do Doctor Who ever again after some of the stuff she's asked to say. Dylan, when we did Necromantia last year on this podcast, there was one bit in that where I said, you can tell that actress does not know what any of those words mean. She's just reading them out. The whole last episode of Unregenerate is just, bless them, this is not how they should be spending their Sundays.
Yeah, especially when Big Finish are really trying to give Mel agency and redevelop her reputation in the eyes of fandom. And, that's happened with things like Fires of Vulcan.
No, you remember her bouncing around the One Doctor and Bang Bang. But remember when she was the straight woman to Sylvester McCoy's Madman in Bang Bang a Boom? It was hilarious.
Yeah. And they've done so much great. And the only thing I will give this props for with the Mel character is that she is a computer scientist and uses computer science. But it's the dullest thing about Mel that she does computers.
But I did like the relationship with the taxi driver.
Yeah.
That was my favourite thing about the whole story. And it's not much. It's a crumb. But I like the fact that he sort of understands her, and by the time she's given him mad explanations as to what's going on, she's so truthful, honest, and as boring as they come that he believes every word that she's saying. I don't know, I thought there was a nice dynamic.
No, there's a nice human element to it in a bunch of sort of Geordie LaForge bollocks.
Especially in episode 1, where it's all very contemporary.
I said episode 1 I thought it was setting up for something really interesting, but I think it quickly unravels. But I hated that he stayed behind, the taxi driver, at the end, because we don't find anything about the taxi driver to go like, oh, he hates his life on Earth. Like, what has he got? No family or no friends, nothing. Like, he's got a bit of trouble with the Inland Revenue. Okay, I understand.
That's literally the end of the story. I couldn't believe it when it crashed in to the Doctor Who theme tune off the back of the Inland Revenue Won't Find Me Here.
Do you remember the end of Midnight, when they said, oh, I didn't even know her name, about that poor woman who sacrificed, and it just was devastating. Like, nobody knew. Well, doesn't Mel say that in this? Oh, I didn't even find out what his name was. Oh, well, never mind. Let's go.
That taxi driver is such a Chris Chibnall character.
Washing dirty mouth out.
He's always on the verge of saying something like, God, the lads in the darts team aren't going to believe this.
I mean, Chibnall definitely would write Mel going, I've always wanted to say this. Follow that taxi, that she says in episode 1. Wonderful.
The lack of humour, though, do you like having Mel play the straight part? The Doctor does work quite well in those early BFs, but there's so little humour in this that even when they do quite a good gag, they don't realise it's a good gag. So there's a bit where they're talking about they're just explaining. Episode 4 is just people explaining.
Like you said, very Chris Chibnall.
Yeah. About how the TARDIS brains have been put into human brains, and that's why they're going mad. And she goes, I've been looking it up. I think it's like Phantom Limb Syndrome, and then gives this very long explanation of what Phantom Limb Syndrome is. And then the Doctor goes, no, it isn't like that at all, which is quite...
Michael, you want to do First Frontier. That's just like his prose. He literally puts all his research in all the time. Great long paragraphs of them.
But it would have been such a terrific gag if they just realised that it was funny. And I think the fact that they don't realise the absurdity of what is being written is just so telling.
Where's the Mel that when, old Sally Ann in the One Doctor went, you can drop the goody two-shoes act, and Mel goes, what act? Like, you know what I mean? Where's that Mel?
Yeah. And I think the cab driver relationship is down to the fact that both Bonnie Langford and Toby Longworth, who plays the cabbie, are trying to make...
Is it Toby Longworth?
They're trying to make this 2D relationship interesting. They're like, we're going to spend the majority of the episodes together. We need to make this work.
Do you know what would have made it interesting? If Toby Longworth wasn't playing the cabbie, he was playing Judge Dredd.
Dredd.
Imagine if it was Bonnie and Judge Dredd trying to find a doctor. Oh, that would be fucking awesome.
I am the law, Melanie Bush. Oh, it would be great.
The Inland Revenue won't find you here.
Now, obviously, Doctor Who and the Daleks actress Jenny Linden.
No.
Of the fire extinguishers. That's what they were firing. Fire extinguishers. Yeah, the first plastic sets in Doctor Who. Shut up, Roberta. She's in this. Does she know that whether she's playing the protagonist or the antagonist? Because I think she falls somewhere in the middle of just delivering all of her lines in a really flat, monotonous way.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I definitely didn't know it was her until I looked it up afterwards. It's one of those performances where I just sort of go, oh yeah, they've obviously just picked some random actor that they've seen in a stage show at the Fringe or something. And then when I looked it up, I was like, oh no, this is former Doctor Who companion Jenny Linden. I was a bit surprised. I guess mainly because I thought she'd probably stopped acting years ago, but apparently not.
But now, look, it doesn't say very intelligent things very often, so I would like to say that my Mark said something about this release when we was walking back from Tesco's the other day. Yeah, sorry, Sainsbury's, I do shop there. And that is, he goes, this is that period of Big Finish where they were bringing in names from Doctor Who history, a bit like Deborah Watling in Freeze a Crowd. She's the villain mother in that, and it's kind of as agonizing as this, where it isn't where they've taken an actor and matched it to the part, is they've just brought in a name because people are going, my God, it's Barbara from Doctor Who and the Daleks. I'll definitely pick up that one.
It's their version of stunt casting, but done badly. Like, JNT always gets a bad rap for stunt casting, but I think largely he pulls it off, despite what fandom may have thought in the 80s. This is, as you say, they've literally gone, this person in this role because it might make people buy it.
It's a little bit shakedown, isn't it?
How dare you? Then there's nothing wrong with Shakedown.
Masterpiece.
Every part is perfectly cast.
The most dramatic corporate video we've ever all watched together.
The most shocking thing about Jenny Linden is that she has a very big IMDb page. She was in a lot of things up until the mid-90s.
Porn?
No. They're all television programs you've heard of.
Oh, okay.
She's a star.
Can I address the elephant in the room, please? Because I know you two are massive fans of the Sylvester McCoy era. You're huge Seventh Doctor fans, yeah? My question is this. Is this the most offensive portrayal of mental illness in anything ever? Like, come on, please address his performance in this.
I mean, not anything ever.
I don't think I've seen anything more offensive than him bawling his head off for 3 episodes.
It's not good. I think the main issue is that it's absolutely the wrong pitch of performance for this, because Sylvester McCoy, he can act. He played the fool in King Lear alongside Ian McKellen for the RSC, for God's sake. And I think if you imagine that performance was being done on a stage for the RSC against Ian McKellen, then okay, maybe you'd get away with that as a depiction of quote unquote madness. And it is a depiction of madness, not of mental ill health. But when it's on audio and it's against people who are trying to do something more vaguely naturalistic within the confines of what they're actually being asked to say, it's so odd. It really doesn't work. It throws you out of it. It's such a performance. Yeah, it is. I am a big McCoy fan, but I struggled with his performance in this one. And I think McCoy's someone who needs to have read the script, and I think he is reading the scripts at this point, but I think B needs a good director and a strong director who can temper him a little bit and bring his performances down when it's needed and bring it up in other places. And for whatever reason, that isn't happening here.
when this whole thing was restructured at Big Finish, Gary Russell's role was spread amongst 3 different people full time. Okay, so that gives you an idea of what he is juggling at this point, and he's the director here, isn't
No,
he?
it's John Ainsworth here.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. Okay, but he's doing a lot, and I don't think maybe he's not whatever the audio equivalent of the rushes coming in are. I don't think he's seeing those because he's juggling spin-off shows at this point and all sorts. There's so much going on in Big Finish at this point, so I don't think anybody is sitting poor. So it's a bit like Ken Dodd in Delta and the Band. You know how they said that Chris Coffin, they were all just laughing at his performance and nobody was sitting him down and going, no, just bring it down. It could be like McCoy can do that growling, purring menace so effectively. Look at Ghostlight, look at Master, look at his performance from like the Magic Mousetrap through to A Death in the Family. Yeah, he can act on audio. He needs direction, and he can't sight read a script. So he needs time to prepare his performance, I think. And I think you can tell when he's prepared and when he isn't. And here he's just like, oh, okay, you want me to do mad? All right. And he just starts shouting. And the weird thing was, he starts what I thought was the ceiling. But come episode 3, I mean, he was he was just screaming his head off. There was no nuance. It wasn't trying to say anything. It was just mad is just screaming a load of random bullshit things hysterically.
Yeah, I don't know if it is the direction or the editing or what have you, but there are a few moments in this, not just McCoy's performance, where you think that's just very oddly put together. And that line is very oddly delivered for the purpose it needs to serve within the drama. Like a couple of the cliffhangers. The first cliffhanger is Mel and the cabbie discovering that the house that they're investigating is actually just empty. It's a set. Which is like a few things in this is a very visual idea to put on audio. But even then, Bonnie Langford's delivery of it is not the delivery of a cliffhanger, so it sort of comes out of nowhere.
Mark was in fits of laughter when she's like, "It's nothing but a facade." She goes, and then the music gets in.
Or even more so, the cliffhanger to episode 3, which should be the big, oh bloody hell, twist moment when the guy who's been shot regenerates. And you remember when they did that at end of Day of the Moon, and everyone went, bloody hell, what's that?
Yeah.
And they do it here, and Sylvester McCoy just goes, Louis is regenerating. And it's not a cliffhanger. Like, that was more of a cliffhanger delivery than I just gave. He basically, Louis regenerating.
Like that's
like
he's saying, Louis just gone to the shops actually, so he won't be here for a minute.
But I think as well, McCoy can navigate certain scripts, and what you don't give him is enormous reams of science fiction exposition to say, because that's not his wheelhouse. His wheelhouse is to be the charming, funny master manipulator who's there in the room that everyone's underestimating. You make him say an enormous speech of technobabble, it's just going to come out like a garbled mess. I don't understand, because they've been working with him for years at this point.
Yeah, it's very odd. So obviously David A. McIntee sadly passed away recently. I would like to spend a second just if anybody's got some positives on either this script or some of his other works that they enjoyed, just because I don't think it's entirely fair just to completely...
May I?
Yeah.
Because I've just done a book club on The Face of the Enemy, which is just one of the best past Doctor Adventures book. What if Joe and the Third Doctor bugger off to Solos or wherever they are this week, and there's a catastrophe, and UNIT has to call in Roger Delgado's master as scientific advisor to UNIT. But at the same time, they also call in Ian and Barbara as well. I mean, it's the wankiest book you've ever read in your life. It's blissful. They basically said to him, go to town. We know you love a bit of continuity. You can pull in Corporal Bell. You can pull in that person who made the tea in Invasion of the Dinosaurs, whoever you like. And he just throws it all in this book, and then turns out this amazing Sweeney-esque thriller for the first half, and then an insane sequel to Inferno in the second half. It's the most delirious wank job to Doctor Who that you've ever read in your life. Like, he can write, but he just has to get all of this sterile science fiction out of his system.
Absolutely. I want to suggest The Quality of Mercy, which was a BBV audio featuring Guy de Carnac from his novel Sanctuary, I believe. This is the last BBV audio that isn't Faction Paradox. It's right at their tail end. And it's set in the past. It involves knights and monks and sort of weird aliens that barely feature at all. And it's a really quiet, muted character story. There's no big sci-fi bollocks in it. And it's just really nice. And it proves that he can do these quieter moments and he can do character relationships really well. And I don't see much of that in Unregenerate, but it's just nice to, I've got a real soft spot for that audio.
I like David A. McIntee as well. I think even within this script, actually, we should to compare and contrast it with Minuet in Hell. It's a much better set of scripts than Minuet in Hell.
Yeah.
Like, the whole story works. It hangs together. We might find it a bit dry. We might find some performances a bit wrong, but
it's more ambitious and it's more focused than Minuet in Hell.
More ambitious. It's more focused. It's ideas that it doesn't articulate. It doesn't leave them hanging in the way that Minuet in Hell does. And there are lots of ideas that the TV series would come back to as well. It shows that he's really tuned into what are interesting ideas within the lore. I think if I had to pull out just, one other of his that I've really enjoyed, I want to stick up for First Frontier, because I think First Frontier is it's a heck of a lot of fun. A great, big, thick Virgin New Adventure homage to 1950s B movies through the lens of sort of 90s X-Files and Star Trek, and he knows that stuff, and it's one of those glorious Doctor Who historicals where it just absolutely immerses itself in all the genre conventions and knowledge, and you've got grey aliens and flying saucers and government conspiracies, and it's just so much fun, and it's got such warmth about it as well. I've not read Sanctuary. We want to do Sanctuary on the book club sometime, because I know that's supposedly
one
his
of the most passionate romances, one of the most striking romances ever written with Doctor Who on the back. It's at the end of that book where she loses Guy to Karnak. Where's that here? Like, that could be here somewhere. 11th Tiger, he writes the romance of Ian and Barbara, where at one point it looks like they're going to be separated forever. And it is so touching, that book. So he's absolutely got the ability.
It's like his approach is either, I'm neither doing relationships or sci-fi, but I'm not doing both. And that's quite a pre-new series thing, isn't it, if we're just looking at Doctor Who dramas? People feel like they can't mix the two, which obviously Russell came back and proved that you absolutely can and absolutely should.
You know what this needed? Because I genuinely believe this when I say it, nobody writes the Master better than David A. McIntee. Whatever Master he's writing, he's having the best time writing him. There's a scene in Face of the Enemy where Ian thinks Barbara is dead. Yeah, that she's been, they find a corpse in a burnt car. And there's a scene at Unit HQ where the Master consoles him, but just goes, use her death as a catalyst to get this sorted out, this problem that we're trying to solve. And he knows all along that Barbara's alive, the Master. And yet he still uses Ian's grief. And you're like, you fucking arsehole. And it's just great. Like, man, it needs a big, passionate villain in it like that, this.
Like, I don't really feel like I know who the villains are in this story, because nobody feels that evil. It just feels like Doctor Who does vivisection or something like that. There's no out-and-out evil person, but there's also the moral ambiguity isn't played up either. So it's just a bunch of characters. Doctor Who needs a good villain, as you say. And
well, who is that character Regan in this? Yeah, the one that was saying things like, "You're a brave little girl, aren't you?" And shoot to maim, and we've searched every crevice. I think she was supposed to be like the hissable villain in this, but
she just comes across as like an overzealous security agent. Like,
the performance was so eccentric. It's like, I don't know what's happening.
I've not watched a single full episode of DS9 other than the first one and the Tribbles one, but I assume this is what the Dominion War's all like, is it?
No, how dare you? Babylon 5, more like, yeah.
Do we have much more to say on this?
I did like the ideas.
Yeah.
I did really like the ideas. I just didn't like how they were handled dramatically in the story. But, like, I love the Doctor's wife. I love the idea of pouring people into TARDISes, and the idea that the Time Lords can just turn those people off at a whim, and, big, epic ideas like that. But I need more than exposition. I need to see what are the consequences of those ideas and what are the consequences emotionally on the characters within the story.
there's a moment right at the start of this that was the one thing I really remembered of the story since first listening to it, which is it opens with Louis, who's the sort of recruitment agency for the Time Lords, who goes out to find people who will sort of engage in this Mephistophelian pact to, we will help you live a good life, but on the day before you die, you must come with me, which is a great opening. And the opening's fun. And it is good. But the thing that struck with me is the way they do that is they have Louis visit this chap in just post-war. It's 1957, and there's a radio in the background that's talking about Sputnik being launched. And then they sort of fast forward to the present day. And I think it's just as Louis has literally just stepped between these times. And there's the television is talking about the Second Battle of Fallujah and British and American forces reclaiming it, which was literally something that happened weeks before this came out. And I remember at the time thinking, bloody hell, that is quite impressively up to date and really made that time jump feel so strong, like a life has gone by in a scene change.
His research is so impressive. He can put things in that haven't even happened yet.
Or maybe he knew something.
I think some people write off McIntee as a mid Doctor Who writer of books, but I think he's in the good to great. Occasionally there are some mid books, but I think he's a prolific author of Doctor Who books. He's written, I think he's written for every Doctor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'd say. Has he, Michael? I think he has.
Well, certainly the classic series he must have done.
Oh yeah, certainly not the new series. Yeah, he's always a good ideas man, and he always writes a good romp as well. He loves action. You'll be very butch by the end of any book that he's written because you'll know those guns inside out and back to front. I can make a Molotov cocktail now thanks to David A. McIntee. He's a good writer. I wonder if audio isn't where he's most suited, because I think this might be better on the page. Certainly divorced of the weird performances that are going on in this, and with the space to explore the ideas a bit more. I think this might work better as a book.
Yeah, no, I think you make a good point, because there's something in there that it almost feels like this should be better than it is, but it just doesn't quite all hang together. And maybe explored over 260 odd pages, it would have found room to breathe and sort of connect its own internal logic a bit more and just make it more accessible. But it just, for whatever reason, doesn't come together here.
But it is better than Minuet in Hell.
Yes, it is, which is damning with faint praise of others.
A low bar.
So, is it a clanger, a banger, or an average meander?
It's a clanger, but it clangs softly.
Yeah, I would say it's the higher end of clangers. Another draft might have made it an average meander. I don't think it was ever going to reach a banger status.
As a novel, I think it had the potential to be a banger. After episode 1, I thought it might be an average meander, but come episode 4, alas, we are a three-way clanger tonight.
Indeed.
Too hot for TV.
Well, we've done 3 entries in the Doctor Who mental health canon, and I think it's safe to say that the television show did it best.
Yeah. That's unusual, isn't it?
Yeah, quite. Were there any overarching thoughts you had looking at all of these 3 stories?
We mentioned it a few times, but I think I was really struck by an idea that I think, and in a good way, already feels a bit old-fashioned, which was the willingness within genre to treat mental ill health or madness or insanity, whatever you want to call it, as a sort of horror trope. As without any sort of connection. Like, it's really interesting how with all of these, with the exception of the Sleep of Reason, which we discussed in the book club, and even a little bit there, the people suffering they're not people. Like, what they're going through is not a result of lived experience or life. It is something that is sort of forced upon them externally and then solved as rapidly. And really just the whole idea of it is, wouldn't it be scary if you just lost your mind?
It's a very 1950s horror film sort of idea of what mental health is. And it's a shame because there's so many great stories, I think, to tell within that prism, and some really moving ones. But they're just not, they're certainly not here in these 2 audios.
I think it's laudable that they went there with all three of these. I do think The Sleep of Reason was successful in depicting mental health struggles and going some way to solving them. But with these two audios, I admire the fact that they went there. I don't think we were there yet to tell these stories. And I think more sophisticated writers were coming in the new series. Like, who wrote Vincent and the Doctor?
Richard Curtis with a hefty lump of Stephen Moffat.
Well, there you go. And Charlene James as well in Can You Hear Me? I think they were just good writers ready to do this and put it on the screen in a way that truly makes you connect with the people that are going through these things. And just to have something to say about it, just to have something to say. There's nothing to say about mental health in Minuet in Hell or in Unregenerate that isn't a wacky sci-fi idea. And that's a little bit offensive.
Too hot for TV.
Well, guys, if people want to find you on the internet, where can they find you?
I'm mostly on Blue Sky these days, where I'm just Michael Mills.
There's nothing just about Michael Mills.
Hey, I'm just this guy, you know.
No, nothing. 25 quid.
We began the book club by discussing whether I'm a genius, and we've really not reached the end of that one, so why not follow me on Blue Sky and find out for yourself? Or alternatively, listen to the Hamster Book Club, which, Joe, excitingly, is going to be its own podcast soon.
Yes, that's right. All of the episodes are jettisoning out of the Hamster thread, and we will be our own book club podcast. I think people struggle to find them sometimes because they're all lost amongst the commentaries and the Strickleys and all of this. And we're going to have superb artwork from Dan Pin fronting it, a lovely new theme tune, and of course, the library of Michael Mills episodes there. I think there's about 30 odd episodes now, Michael. I'm so sorry to have wasted so much of your time with this nonsense. But yes, it will be its own unique entity soon, and hurrah to that.
Excellent. And Joe Ford, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
There are 1,000 episodes of Hamster with a blunt pen knife out there now. Should you wish to jettison any worth in your life, go and find it.
Indeed. And congratulations on your 1,000th episode, dear God.
Did you like that I put in the fart?
Oh, yes, of course you did, yeah.
Yeah.
That our finest moment when Joe Ford farted during a podcast.
It was the only response to the stranger I could possibly think of.
Next time, I'll be joined by Liam, and we will be talking about things that never were with a potential Season 27 and Season 28, and then we'll look at the lost story, Elixion. So, until next time, I've been Dylan.
I've been Michael.
And I've been Joe.
And this has been Doctor Who Too Hot for TV.
Too hot for TV.